What does the sun drink out of? Sunglasses. Today we're going to be talking about taking your chameleon outside. There are 3 main benefits to taking your chameleon outside. The number one and biggest benefit is natural UVB. I have a whole video about UVB and why chameleons need UVB, and it's in order to synthesize vitamin D3 and have healthy organs, and this is an essential part to reptiles and chameleons specifically. And in captivity, we have to provide artificial UVB, which is that long, skinny bulb that you see in people's chameleons enclosures. But UVB is naturally put off by the sun. So if your chameleon can get some outdoor time in the sun, then they're getting natural UVB as compared to artificial UVB. And what's better than that? Nothing. So that's the biggest benefit to taking your chameleon outside. In addition, it adds enrichment to your chameleon's life. It allows them to explore the outside, get fresh air, fresh sky. It's the closest you can come, I think, to playing with your chameleon is to be able to take them outside and allow them to have that enrichment being outdoors. The third benefit to taking your chameleon outside is it's great for bonding and building trust with your chameleon. They're able to associate you with a positive experience, which I think in turn builds trust, and you can build a better relationship with your chameleon. There are a few different ways that you can take your chameleon outside. One being having an outdoor enclosure. That's a fully decked out chameleon enclosure, head to toe, plants, branches, heat, UVB, all of it, the works, in an outdoor enclosure. I don't have any experience with outdoor enclosures, so I don't feel confident advising you guys on how to properly set up an outdoor enclosure, but Bill Strand from the Chameleon Academy has an entire podcast on outdoor enclosures that I feel confident recommending to you guys, so I will link that down in the description if that's something that you're interested in and you live in a climate where that would be a thing that you could do. A simpler option would be to put your chameleon outside on a live or a fake plant. Just make sure it's not a sap-producing plant or tree, and that the tree's not so big that your chameleon's going to climb out of reach, or that the pot is too small that your chameleon would easily be able to climb off of it. A common question I get asked is how long to take your chameleon outside. Anything's better than nothing. 5 minutes outside is better than not 5 minutes outside. I generally take my guys out for anywhere for like 20 minutes to an hour, but it depends on the temperatures and how much time you have to supervise your chameleon. All that goes into it, but I'm not going to give you a set number, but outdoor time is super beneficial to your chameleon, and as much as you can take them outside without causing them stress, I'd say do it. A word of caution and a recommendation I have for you is to supervise your chameleon at all times. At all times. Chameleons can easily climb off of plants. I thought Neptune, when he was younger, he was on this potted plant, and I thought there was enough space from the pot to the ground so that he wouldn't be able to climb off of it. And that was true for a few months, but then he got bigger and finally he was able to reach the ground off the pot, and sure enough he was able to climb off of it. So you got to make sure that your chameleon isn't able to climb off the pot and you're supervising them in case they do. Another thing to be worried about is your chameleon climbing too high, especially if they're on a natural tree. Chameleons are climbers, so it's not too difficult for them to get all the way up that 10-foot tree that you have, 20-foot tree, 30-foot tree, however big it is, so make sure you're supervising them that they don't climb too high. And thirdly, chameleons have been picked up by large birds like falcons and things like that. A bird will just come snatch a chameleon and have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, It's sad but true, so make sure you're supervising your chameleon at all times. Another thing we should talk about are temperatures. How hot is too hot and how cold is too cold? Generally speaking, anything above 60 degrees Fahrenheit should be okay for your chameleon, and anything below 90 degrees Fahrenheit should be okay for your chameleon. And I say should be because every chameleon is different and every species is different. I'm going to list on the screen here some list of temperatures per species and age group, and these are general husbandry recommendations for inside your enclosure, and I would use these for outside time as well. Some things that we should talk about are signs of heat stress, and this is when your chameleon is trying to visually tell you that they're overheating and they're unable to cool down. Remember, chameleons are cold-blooded, so they have to use the outside temperatures to regulate their heat. That's why we have the gradients inside their enclosure, where it's warmer at the top and cooler at the bottom, so that if they need to cool down, they have the opportunity to go down. If they need to warm up, they have the opportunity as well. Let's talk about the specific characteristics of heat stress. There's kind of 3 key signs. your chameleon will start gaping when they open their mouth. This is in an attempt to cool down. Make sure it's not stress induced, because chameleons will also do that. If they feel threatened, then they'll start to gape. But if they are not showing any other signs of being defensive and they are gaping, odds are they're trying to cool down. Second sign of heat stress is they turn lighter or brighter in color. This is them trying to not absorb heat. Thing chameleons do is when they're at their basking branch, they'll turn a darker color in order to try and absorb more heat. So when they're overheating, they'll turn a lighter color to try and reflect off that heat. And then the third sign of heat stress is they'll try to go down low. So if you're in this big plant, they'll try and come down low into shady spots in an attempt to cool off. And last but not least, they'll start to close their eyes. That's a severe sign of stress. So if your chameleon is showing any of these signs, specifically going down low or closing their eyes, then you know that they're overheating, and it's your responsibility as a keeper to understand this body language and take your chameleon out of that environment. I will also note that when you are taking your chameleon outside, it's a good idea to give them options as far as half the plant is in the sun and half the plant is in the shade, so then they have the opportunity to cool down if they need to, or to warm up a bit. And one more thing I want to tell you guys is be mindful whether or not you're able to handle your chameleon. I can pretty comfortably handle all my chameleons to get them out of their enclosures onto a plant, off of the plant, back into their enclosure. But when I first got Neptune, he was not comfortable with handling even just me transporting him. So I didn't take him outside because I didn't feel confident that I would be able to get him back into the enclosure. I would only recommend taking your chameleon outside if you're able to handle them, or at the very least able to get them on and off of a stick or on and off of a plant. Sometimes when Neptune was little, I would put in a plant right in front of his enclosure, give him some time, he would climb out all on his own, no interference of mine, and then he would be on the plant. Then I can take the plant outside, he gets his outside time, yay, and then I can bring the plant back in and kind of angle it into his enclosure, and then eventually he would climb off back into the enclosure. So that's an option for you. Just be mindful if you can't handle your chameleon, maybe you should wait a little bit until your chameleon's a little more comfortable with you. Hopefully you guys find these tips and tricks helpful and you'll be able to take your chameleon outside with the warmer weather. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Leave any questions or comments down below. Feel free to subscribe so you know when I post a new video. You can follow Neptune and all my chameleons on Instagram at Neptune the Chameleon. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day. Bye! Oh, my back. Ugh. I'm getting too old for this.